Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Realm of History. Yes, special congratulations to the third hour boys getting a 6 out of 7 on the review game today and celebrating that +1. Congratulations, guys. Make sure you check in with me in the comments. Let me know that you're here. I'd love to express my gratitude to you for being here. And thank you to my sponsor, the Barn Health and Fitness. That's one of my track coaches, and she does an awesome job. So, the best in the business. Just want to make sure that I'm expressing my gratitude to the important people that help me out here and make this happen. One of the key things that we want to talk about today, right off the bat, is that hey, I'm really confident that we're going to have school tomorrow. I really want to be in school. I do not want to miss, and I don't want people to skip or McGee. So please make sure that you're doing your due diligence, that you're getting ready for this quiz, and that you are studying just like normal. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in class tomorrow, if that becomes a possibility, which I think it will be. Okay, let's get into the live agenda tonight. Tonight we're going to do some normal things, go over some key advice, some key terms. I will have some quick AP advice for you. There have been some clues already. Maybe a little bit more clues if you're paying attention closely as we go through the evening tonight. But just want to express my gratitude to you. I know I've been throwing a lot at you in these first two quick 3-section chapters. So hey, I appreciate you, rising to the occasion and accepting the challenge. Things will slow down a little bit as we get into chapter 20, chapter 21. But hey, that's good. It's good to keep ourselves moving and making sure that we're rising to the occasion, challenging ourselves as much as possible. Okay, some of the key advice. I really think it's important to write things down from this session. Uh, this might be just me, but I think that my students who take notes on the sessions, the more times that you write the information down, the better you grasp it. And so, studies have proven that writing things out by hand very beneficial to your success. Number two, I think you really need to make sure that you read through your notes several times through, making sure you're reading through your outlines from section 1, section 2, section 3. Then finally using the review sheet to quiz yourself, making note cards if you're still struggling. Like if you got below a 17 on the last quiz, you might want to make some note cards on some of the terms that you're not doing very well when you quiz yourself off of the review sheet. That's why I have you do the terms on a separate sheet so you can quiz yourself at the blank sheet. Make sure that you're doing that at some point in time tonight. If you have not read the AMSCO, I didn't see many hands go up when we were picking our ballers for the review game. There weren't that many kids that were feeling confident that they read the AMSCO. So that really worries me. I asked that you had it done by today. It didn't seem like that came to fruition. So if you haven't read your AMSCO, then you have tonight to do that. Now, watching the Heimler videos for 4.1 and 4.2, very beneficial. Okay, those are some of the suggestions that I have for you. Number 2 on my list, pray for the right things, right? So let's think about where we're at in the situation that we're in to be maybe stressing about this quiz tomorrow, where other people are worrying about where they're going to eat or where they're going to sleep or where they're going to take shelter in this pretty cold air that's out there, right? So we're in a really good position to have a quiz, to be able to go to school tomorrow. Please don't pray for a day off. I don't think that's the most important thing to think about right now. But I think that you should pray for the right things. And what those are, as we talk about the health and safety of your family and loved ones, right? And I think also the prayer of gratitude, expressing your gratitude to the good Lord for all the blessings that have been bestowed upon us. And then finally, I don't really suggest that you pray for success on the quiz, but I think you could ask for guidance to use your talents to the fullest. Those are things that I would suggest. I'm not the end all be all. Those are just my suggestions as your teacher, as your guide, as your mentor, somebody who cares a lot about you and wants you to be really successful. So nonetheless, that's really what I'm talking about tonight. Number 3, hey, the motto of the realm, be here now, right? Focus on the task at hand, making sure that you're popping in history tomorrow, that you're popping in history right now, getting yourself ready for the quiz. If you have to stop the video right now, number 4, make sure you express your gratitude to your parents and your guardians, your grandparents. If you have to go do that right now so you don't forget, that's more important. Make sure that you tell them thank you, that you love them, and just so they know that you appreciate the great position that you're in, to be at a place like St. Mary's, to have a cell phone, to have food to eat, to have shelter. You're really benefiting off of the sacrifices of your parents, guardians, grandparents, loved ones. So make sure that you express that gratitude. And then finally, what I already pointed at is meet the challenge, right? Meet the challenge. Tomorrow's going to be a challenge. Hey, no lies. Content, there's going to be some challenging questions. AP, always a challenge. Always a challenge, no matter what. So make sure that you're getting ready for that. I'm going to front you some points tomorrow on the AP. Probably going to make the low score a 5. All right. But nonetheless, let's get after it. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's not Skipper McGee. Don't skip out. Don't shy away from the challenge. Make sure that you're there and get your work in. All right. Let's see. I think that is my advice. I have one more thing to say. I talked to Coach Bobby Klaus, Mr. Klaus, in the math lab. And I think that it's important that you also study for your math test, right? Because, hey, we're going to have school tomorrow. You don't want to be at a deficit if you're a Realm family and a math lab member. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence, getting yourself ready. Okay. Next order of business, we're going to go through some key terms, some key figures. Maybe not so many concepts. There were only really 2 on the review sheet. So we'll kind of focus on the terms, figures, concepts. Then we'll go AP advice, and then we'll go question and answer session. A lot of questions about the spice trade today, right? So when you really think about the spice trade, it's basically European countries seeking trade with Asian countries, especially India. They're trying to find a direct route to India for spices such as cinnamon, okay? They needed to create the trade routes by sea to try and bypass the land-based routes that were being controlled by the Italian merchants and the Muslim merchants. After the Crusades, the Italians really benefited by controlling trade in both the Mediterranean region, but also land-based from Asia to Europe. Okay, next. This one is for the term daimyo, okay? Daimyo were Japanese warlords, very similar to European feudal lords, that employed samurai to battle other lords within Japan. So the Japanese warlords were called the daimyo. Okay, that was a really big concept in section number 3. I'm focusing tonight on section 3 because that's the one that we had for homework. So I wanted to help you out as much as possible with the ones that we didn't cover as much in class. Next is kabuki theater. This is classical Japanese theater that mostly associated with drama, right? Drama style theater. Next is the Warring States period. There were quite a few questions about this today, so I wanted to make sure that we went over it. It's a Japanese period of feudal war. So daimyo versus daimyo. Daimyo using samurai versus daimyo with samurai, right? And these series of wars existed from 1467 to 1568. So about 100 years of warring between daimyo in Japanese feudal states. Next is a literature piece, a style of literature called the haiku. Haiku is a Japanese style poem. It's usually 3 lines. Kowtow, some of the classes got to see the video. Some of the classes didn't have enough time. But nonetheless, the kowtow is a ritual that was practiced in China. In the case of really showing respect for the emperor, that's how it was important to us in our studies. When you went as a British merchant, as a Portuguese merchant, as a Spanish merchant, as a Dutch merchant, in order to gain an audience with the emperor, you had to perform the kowtow ritual, basically getting down on your knees, touching your forehead on the ground 9 times consecutively to pay your respect to the emperor. It did evolve into Chinese cultural practice with bowing, kowtowing, different styles for men and women, but nonetheless, for our purposes, we want to know that kowtow is a sign of reverence or respect for the Chinese culture. Next is a very important development that changed the game as far as exploration is concerned. That's the lateen sail. The lateen sail was a triangular shaped sail that allows ships to sail into the wind. That's the big picture idea there. Okay, one of the key Navy admirals of China was Zheng He. Zheng He was a Chinese naval leader that led many explorations and expeditions in large Chinese ships called junks. Okay, that is basically what you want to know about Zheng He. Okay, next we have the Tokugawa Shogunate. The Tokugawa Shogunate was a military controlled government in Japan led by a sole ruler that was called the Shogun. Okay. There was a really good show on Hulu a few years ago called Shogun. It was only one season, but it was really good. I don't know if it's still available, but if you want to watch a movie that's like, or a series of shows that's about this time period we're learning, check out Shogun from Hulu. Next is Oda Nobunaga. He was a Japanese leader that ended the Warring States period by defeating rival lords. He was trying to unify all of Japan under his control, but he was not able to accomplish that. Next is Toyotomi Hideyoshi. He was a general that fought for Oda Nobunaga. He eventually became the ruler of Japan and set out to defeat any remaining daimyo that were still hostile to the Japanese government. And he also led invasions of Korea and Ming China. Moving on, we have Tokugawa Ieyasu, is how you say that. Tokugawa Ieyasu. He is the shogun who did unify Japan in the year 1600. So Tokugawa Ieyasu, big player because he unified Japan in 1600. Okay, next order of business is I want to talk about the AP advice. If you've been paying attention closely, there have been a couple subtle clues there for you. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but here is going to be one of my big pieces of advice. I want you to focus on the illustrative example or examples that I provided for you in the 4.1 and 4.2 guides. They're on the back side of your review sheet. And I think that the understanding the illustrative examples there in the margin will really pay dividends for you on the quiz tomorrow. So that's right here. A second piece of advice would be understanding how technology, such as gunpowder, the compass, different styles of ships, etc., had an impact on states in Europe, Asia, and also Africa. Okay, so those are some of the key things that I suggest in getting yourself ready for the AP portion on the quiz tomorrow. Okay, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you being here. Now it's time for you to ask any questions that you'd like. I'll do my best to answer them for you. Also, if you haven't checked in with me yet, please do let me know that you are here. I do really appreciate that. I'm going to go through and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Thank you to all of you who have checked in with me. I really do appreciate that. I hope all of you had a safe ride home. I will tell you, the ride home today was the real deal, right? For some of you young drivers, I hope that you all were blessed enough to make it home okay. That really is important to me. Glad to see you on here. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we got a question. Okay, this is a great question, Leah. So, yes, daimyo relationship to European feudalism, almost the same exact thing. Was this spread through cultural diffusion and or syncretism? I would not say this is syncretism. I would say that cultural diffusion does play a role in this, and for both sides. They were kind of happening congruently, but nonetheless, that yes, this is spread culturally through the Silk Roads, these ideologies, but they were also developing independently and in slightly different ways. So I wouldn't say they qualify as a syncretic process. Okay, yeah. So you want to know that this is war between feudal lords in Japan and feudal lords in Japan, which were called daimyos. They hired or employed samurai, which would be like the same layer as knights. And then they had peasants, which would be like the same layer as serfs. So the samurai worked for the daimyo. The daimyo were like the lords. The samurai were like the knights. You know how knights in Europe had a code that they followed called chivalry? Samurai had a code they followed called bushido. So very, very similar ideology. Just the Warring States period are those lords fighting against each other. All right, working our way down the question list here. Okay, so the Cape of Good Hope is southern tip of Africa, right? So sailing around the southern tip of Africa was really significant because if you could sail around the southern tip of Africa, you know that once you get to the eastern coast of Africa, people there understand how to get to India straight across the Indian Ocean. So what your boy Bartholomew Diaz does by sailing past the Cape of Good Hope really opens up the ideology, okay, that we can take a direct sea route around Africa to get to Asia. That's the big significance there. Yeah, so Queen Leah, isolationism was a big part of Section 2 and Section 3, right? Both China and Japan wanted to limit their contact with foreign entities, wanted to become more self-sufficient, right? The United States did this also after the War of 1812, right? In the United States, we were blockaded by the British, and so we started to manufacture our own goods. So there was some isolationism that was copied from China and Japan, having a really big impact on later civilizations. So understanding that isolationism was an economic policy that both China and Japan employed, mostly because they did believe that they wanted to be self sufficient, that they didn't need to rely on other countries or entities. That's the ideology there of isolationism. Yes, great point. Caravel is a key term, but the other styles that are in AMSCO, like the Carrack, the Floyd, the Galleon, which was a Spanish, the Junker or Junk, which was a Chinese ship. Yes, you should know all of those, not only for the content portion, but I think it would be helpful for you on the AP portion. And remember, these are great things to use as pieces of evidence in your SAQ response. The more you know related to ideologies, both from the AP portion and the content portion, the better off you're going to be when you get hit with a question that you haven't memorized. Can you go over what we should know about the Italian Muslim trade control? Yeah, sure. This is the whole reason why European countries like Portugal and Spain are trying to find an alternate route around Africa, is because the Italian merchants and the Muslim merchants controlled the land trade from east to west. Any product that was traveling by land, Italian merchants, Muslim merchants had complete control as the middleman of the prices, of the products being shipped, and of the process. So, what Portugal wants to do, what Spain wants to do, what England wants to do, what the Dutch Netherlands wanted to do is bypass the middleman and find their own direct route to India, to Asia, to Southeast Asia for the purposes of trade. Understanding that principle kind of drives this whole chapter. Yeah, this is great. Like gunpowder technology is also part of this, right? And how they put cannons on their ships to not only defend their products, but also to conquer areas. Like think about how the Portuguese conquer the port cities on both the west coast and the east coast of Africa, and then later ports in India like Goa or Calicut, right? Taking over Java, taking over the Strait of Malacca. So gunpowder combined with the maritime um, creations or inventions like the compass, the astrolabe, the use of the lateen sail. That those are all great examples to use here. No doubt about it. Both, both, Avery. Yeah, those are going to be helpful, I think, on both. Yes, both SAQ and MCQ. All the charts should be studied 100%. Yeah. Like knowing about John Cabot, Henry Hudson, even though they were doing explorations in more so the Americas, that's okay because those are going to be areas where you might be able to throw in as an argument, as a thesis, as a topic sentence, or as supporting evidence in your SAQs, right? So, yeah, don't leave those charts alone. I assign that reading for a reason. You might not use every name on this quiz, but you're going to use them on the AP exam. So, you need to make sure that you're studying them. Why not now? Yeah. Hey, Master Aiden, former student last year in Realm Family Forever. I think you should study. Listen, we have, salt trucks, we got plows out there. Yes, the roads were bad today, but the snow stopped a while back now, and they're going to work on it. They're going to work on it. Okay, this is a great question. Um, Yes and no. Okay, so there's obviously very close culturally and they're very close geographically, but the two time periods in which they practice isolationism are somewhat different. So, though they are related, I would say it's not going to make or break you if you study these as being separate entities and decisions made by leaders within their own countries and realms of control. With within this time period that we're studying, yes. In their whole history, no, but within the time period that we're studying, 1450 to like 1700, this was the time period in which they were unified fully. Yes. Well, the Treaty of Tordesillas, the most important thing to know is that the Pope has to step in 1493 to settle a lot of conflict over who controlled what land in the Americas, really, between Portugal and Spain. So he gets involved, two very Catholic countries. Pope gets involved and says, like, look, we got to make a decision so we don't go to war. We don't want Catholic countries fighting against each other. And so the Pope steps in to try and make a divider line, 60 degrees west longitude, called the line of demarcation. Everything west of that line went to Spain. Basically, they got Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Chile. Um, Portugal, who came into the Americas after Spain, remember, Columbus got there first. Portugal comes to the Americas after Spain, so they got just big part of Brazil, but they also got the western coast of Africa, which they made it to first. Those are the really key elements you want to know. Thank you, kind student. Well, we appreciate you being here. I hope that it's helping you out, and God bless. Okay, main use of gunpowder during this time period in these sections was cannons on ships, right? So, really, what you want to think about is taking gunpowder, putting them on maritime ships, which would help you defend against pirates and also help you take over port cities. That was the big deal with gunpowder. Obviously, there's muskets, there's guns, there's rifles. That's going to be on land battle, which is still very important. But I think for what we're learning about in this chapter, it's really more how they affected the maritime and sea-based travels. Hmm. I think my second hint about the SAQ was knowing gunpowder, major developments, and then from there it's going to be reading the prompt and then utilizing what's in the prompt and the knowledge of those key inventions and how they impacted states, countries in not only the European lands, but also Asia and Africa for this question. So like the warring states period, like 1467 to 1568, that's a good time span to know. Also, one of the key things that you're going to want to know is like just that this whole chapter and the AP section that we're learning about 1450 to 1700 in that range. I think understanding that almost everything that we're learning about in this chapter and in AMSCO falls within that category. That'd be the most important thing to focus on as far as dates for this. Mercantilism was talked about in the AMSCO section. Okay, I'll tell you, Spressa, in later chapters, like chapter 20, we're really going to hit mercantilism hard. As far as for this chapter, it can't hurt you to know about it. It could possibly help you on the SAQ, but as far as for the content portion or the MCQs, probably not going to be a big factor. Just being honest with you. Yeah, just the idea here, Reese, is that the Japanese also felt like European intervention, European products were European Christianity was reducing some of their cultural traditions. And so that's one of the reasons why they go into isolationism. China and Japan wanted to preserve culture on top of preserving ideologies and inventions. So that played a big part in it too. All right. We've been on for quite a while. We're doing really well. Here's the next question. What do we need to know about the Dutch East India Company? So, Dutch East India Company was really important in helping the Dutch Netherlands establish their outposts and headquarters in Java and taking over East Asian trade. So, this is a company, basically a business that was created by the Dutch government for the sole purpose of trade and exploration in East Asia. So that's really what you want to know about the Dutch East India Company. It helps put the Dutch on the map in East Asian trade. When we say East Asian trade, we're talking China, Japan, and the many islands like Malacca, Java, Indonesia, the Philippines. Those are the areas that the Dutch East India Trading Company came to dominate by kind of overthrowing the Portuguese in that control of that, and then overthrowing the British in control of that as well. Tomorrow's SAQ will have a prompt, yes. Okay, all right. I'm going to be on for about another minute. We've been on for about 30, so I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. Focus on the Dutch East India Trade Company for this chapter. Dutch East India Trade Company for this chapter. The British had one as well. Okay, but right now we know that the Dutch were supreme, so we're going to focus on the Dutch. You guys got the extra credit today, your class, Master Landon. So that's a sign of strength. Other than that, no. Sorry. Coltan the Sultan. You guys won. You guys won. So third hour one, you should have seen that in my introduction. I take a lot of time to make these introductions, with pictures and stuff. All right. Nonetheless, yes, third hour did win. Are you guys trying to flex? Could be a flex. All right, gentlemen. Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer. Looks like we have one coming in right here. I already answered this. Yeah, I already answered this. But yes, of course, that's always a big thing to know. No, because you two guys always messing around in class. Too much touchy feely, making fun of each other's hair. No, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Master Julian, this is the second live review, kind sir. You must not have joined us last week. All right. Any other questions about content? Or, yeah, I mean, I'll stay on and answer any questions you want for the next 1 or 2 minutes. Any other questions? If you haven't checked in with me in the comments, please make sure that you do. I appreciate you being here. Okay. Well, hey, I want to say thank you to you. Make sure you say thank you to your parents. Make sure you pray for the right things. Always be here now, whatever you're doing. Focus on the task at hand. And hey, I really care about all of you. Want you to do really well. But if you don't, it's okay. It's just one quiz, right? It doesn't define you as a person. So just please go into this and make sure that you're thinking about giving your best effort on the assessment. That's really all anybody can ever ask. But nonetheless, I really just want to express my gratitude to you. And I'm hoping that we have school tomorrow. I really think that we will. And if we do, please make your best effort to get there safely, right? Make sure you're driving safe. And I want to pray for everybody to get there safely. So have a wonderful night. Make sure you get your rest. And if you need me, you can always send me an email, ask any other questions that you're unsure about. Hoping to see you tomorrow. Thank you again, and God bless. Much love for the realm.